Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. Although I'm standing on a yoga mat, if you are without one today, fear not. Just find a place in your house that's carpeted, or maybe, like me, you've got a rug in your living room, a place that's not too slippery and not too hard. I have 2 yoga blocks. A very convenient and easy substitute for that would be 2 thick books, and I have a folded blanket. That can be a bath towel, beach towel, the throw blanket from your couch, which this actually is. Once you have your items, we will start in a seated cross-legged position, and I want to give you a few prop options for that. You could sit on one of your blocks or books. You could, like I'm going to do, sit on your folded blanket. And if those don't quite add up, pull a cushion from your couch and sit on that as if sitting on a bolster. Totally perfect. Now, in our cross-legged seat, let's cross our right shin in front, and instead of crossing at our ankles, think of like shifting 2 ships passing in the night and cross at the shins. And then we'll place our palms up or down on our thighs and use this pose to land. To land in our practice, to land as best we can in this moment. A great pathway there is to focus on our breathing. Now, you've been breathing all this while, or you wouldn't be joining me right now, but I'm going to guess that you don't really think about it that much. It's one of the functions of our bodies that's pretty miraculous that way, because it happens whether we're thinking about it or not. But we can influence it by bringing awareness to it, and that's helpful in a number of ways. It helps us calm down, land in the moment even when we're not doing yoga, and get clear, a bit more calm. It's great news for things like our nervous system. So let's pause a moment here and land, yes, in our yoga practice, but land in the moment in such a way that we allow ourselves to calmly get clear as best we can, no pressure. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, you can close your eyes and just feel your breath and the inward turn of yoga this way. If this is uncomfortable, some of us don't feel comfortable with closed eyes, just divert your gaze down so it feels like we're turning inward. We're giving ourselves this moment. I'm going to be quiet for about 30 seconds, and we'll simply sit and breathe together. Now blink your eyes open. We'll recross our legs with the left shin in front. Remember, the recipe is 2 ships passing in the night, so we're going to shift and cross more at our ankles. This side might feel a little bit different from the last side. That's just how our bodies work. Inhale, take your arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. And simply turn to your right. Take the back of your left hand to the outside of your right thigh, and then your right hand back behind you, maybe even on a block. We won't be here all that long, so you don't have to be too thorough with your props at this moment. We'll inhale to center, thumbs to the sky, then turn to your left. Same idea, outside of right hand on the outside of your left thigh, and then left hand lands back behind you, maybe on a block if you manage to do that, or we're interested in doing that. We just pause and note a couple moments here. Then we'll come down the middle and take our arms to the sky, thumbs to the sky once again. And out of curiosity, walk ourselves forward. Now that doesn't probably need to go very far to feel like a bit more sensation in our hips, right? And when I say hips, I mean Yes, your hip joints, but the muscles around them are where your sensations are going to come from. Some of you will walk really far forward, and this is kind of easy in your body. A lot of us, not so much. You could take one of your books and walk it out in front of you if that feels better. Note what all those muscles are humming and telling you, because those will be the muscles that we focus on a little bit in this practice today. Then walk yourself forward, lean back and gently free your legs, give them a little wiggle in front of you. Come off your prop, move your props off your mat and out of your way. And then on all fours, we're simply going to move our pelvis into a pelvic tilt. So tucking your tail between your legs is what that feels like. And then lifting our sit bones to the sky. So kind of like sassy, right? So this is a different articulation at our hips. This is hip flexion and hip extension. I'm not going to give you a test at the end of this, but it's pretty amazing the things that our hip joint can do. It can move in a lot of different ways, including circumduction, which is a fancy way of saying in circles. Now, from here, I'd like us to step into a plank position, but it might be a better idea. First of all, let's get really solid with our hands. So oomph into our arms, not sag into our shoulders. And simply step our right foot back, sort of like a little flirt with a plank, but we're not collapsing in our shoulder girdle as we do that. And then step your left foot back. And here we are in a plank position. You might put a kickstand down by bringing your knees to the ground a bit further back in space than when we were on our hands and knees just a few moments ago. We have 3 moments in our plank. Of course, maybe that's plank like this. Then come kneeling and shake your wrists out, because we've got another little adventure on our arms, and our wrists are maybe not used to holding us up for so long. So take breaks anytime you'd like to. Our right hip is almost going to feel like it's seated in our cross-legged position again, as we bring our right hand, right knee, and left foot all on a straight line, and we hug this right hip in. So I'm trying to get a little sideways so you can see I'm not letting this right hip swing back behind me. I'm hugging it underneath me. Shades of what it felt like when I was in my cross-legged seat. Take your left hand on your left hip. You can have your right toes curled under, and if this is a lot on your knee, you might put our folded blanket underneath that right knee. This that we're up to right now is plenty. Some of you might take your left arm up to the sky, and a few of you might even lift your left leg and play with balance, and note that that anchor of hugging your right hip underneath you is essential to finding and hopefully keeping balance, which I'm not quite sure I'm going to be doing in this pose right now. Now bring your left hand down and your left knee down. Let's go kneeling and shaking and let our wrists release. Then side 2, so here we are on our hands and knees, and we're lining up left hand, left knee, right foot. Hug that left hip underneath you. So you can play with it. If you swing it out here, it's not going to be very stable. If you hug that underneath you, that's what we'd like. Right hand on your hip. You don't have to go any further than where we are right now, unless you feel that extending your right arm up and maybe even taking your right leg up off the ground makes sense in your body. There'll be wobbles. As I frequently say, the wobble is the win, because it means you're investigating. Let's try to stay for 3 moments. And then we'll bring our right hand and right foot and then right knee down onto our mat. And then come kneeling once again, and we'll spin and shake. Let our hands release, our wrists release. Tuck your tailbone like you've got a little tuck to your tail. And then take your tailbone to the sky and push a lot with your arms. Let this sass take you to our first down dog. And as we do that, step your feet wide, come onto the balls of your feet, and bend your knees deeply. So we feel like we could not possibly get longer in our front body, side body, back body than we are right now here in our down dog. Walk your feet forward to your hands and let your feet be hip distance and parallel once you get there. Slide your hands up. Inhale, lift your heart. Exhale, slide your hands down. Then inhale, rise, reach thumbs to the sky, a V, and we'll stand in our mountain, palms facing out. So when I say our mountain, it's mountain pose. And when we stand in our mountain pose, we'll feel like we're scooping up something really great with our arms. Widen our collarbones, let our chin stay parallel to the ground, and stand tall. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands to your thighs or maybe your shins or your ankles as you carefully fold. Slide your hands up and inhale. Then bend your knees deeply enough that your palms go completely flat on your mat. And step yourself back into our down dog, which might still be wide as your mat, but it could be hip distance if you're feeling like that's okay. I'm still bent kneed and on the balls of my feet. Some of you might be moving your legs a little towards straight, but not if that's rounding your back. So we want to make sure that we've got that long feeling to our spine. Now shift into plank. Remember our old friend plank from not so long ago? We're oomping into our arms, and we will bring our knees down onto our mat, but keep it a plank-like situation, not our hands and knees. Shift a little bit forward. Use some core strength to slowly lower to your belly and let your elbows brush your ribs as you go. Once we're there, uncurl your toes. Bring your forearms parallel to the long edges of your mat. Then traction into a Sphinx pose. Activate your legs by pressing into the tops of your feet and lifting your kneecaps. As we activate, pulling our elbows towards us, it's not a fling of our chin. So let your chin stay parallel to the ground like we spoke of in our mountain pose. Then lower down, reposition your hands next to your ribs. And see if you can't come back into that feeling of a Sphinx pose, but this in a low cobra. Then we lower down, curl our toes under. We'll come through all fours and then lift our hips up and back and into down dog we go. Remember, it's like a hook in your tailbone. Walk forward, our feet come to our hands and their hip distance. Slide your hands up, inhale. Slide your hands down, exhale. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky. And then we pause with our palms facing out. We will flow that. Inhale, V shape. Exhale, hinge, hands on your thighs, shins, or ankles as we fold. Glide your hands up and inhale. Then bend your knees deeply. Palms flat, step back, down dog. Shift to plank, shoulders over wrists. Bring your knees to your mat and lower with a little core strength. Let your elbows brush your ribs. We come to our bellies. Inhale into either cobra or Sphinx if you prefer it. Lower back down, curl your toes under. We come to all fours. We find the hook in our tailbone and go to down dog from here. Walk your feet forward to your hands. We're hip distance, and then we slide our hands up and inhale once we're here. Exhale, fold back in, hands slide down. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V, and then we stand into our mountain. We want to situate these two books or blocks for a series of wide stanced poses that we'll get into in a moment. So let's take care of the housekeeping first. Your two blocks will go off your mat on either on one long edge of your mat, but not on your mat because we don't want that underneath our feet. Then let's step to the middle of our mat, facing the opposite long edge. Once we're there, and I'm just going to angle towards you so this is a little clearer. Once we're there, place your hands on your hips. You can always take some of these standing balance poses to a wall for some assist or hold the arm of your sofa. So there's no shame in using what we've got around us in our environment to be helpful to our yoga. Hands on your hips, maybe left hand on a wall at some point. Stand on your left leg and take your right leg out in front of you. From our hip, and we've been talking about the motion of our hip, turn that right leg out like you're dancing a jig. And then let your right leg turn back up so all toes face the sky. 2 times like that. Turn it out. Try to hug this left hip in. and then turn your toes to the sky. And then one more time, turn your right leg out and place those, the ball of your right foot like a little kickstand. You can still be using your wall here. Tree pose can look just like this. Tree pose might be with your right foot in the calf muscle, maybe right foot in your inner thigh. None of these are better than the other. This might be where you realize, you know, that wall sounds pretty good right now. Left hand can be there. We'll start to grow our branches. Thumbs to the sky, a V in this shape. And then we'll just see, wobbles and all, how we do, breathing, just like this. 3 silent, meditative moments. Bring your hands to your hips. Maybe your left hand stays on the wall. Turn your right knee forward and step down. Then we'll step wide. So if you're at a wall, just return to the space that gives you enough space to step wide. Arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. And our first measurement will be to aim our ankles underneath our wrists. And then we'll refine it from there. Turn your right leg out as if you were dancing that jig all over again. You can feel it happening at your hip joint. And then turn your left heel, at a 45-degree angle. With our arms wide, we'll bend our right knee. And if your knee is forward of your ankle, which mine is, let's give ourselves a little bit more space front and back. Straighten your front leg, V-shape your arms up overhead for a moment, and feel yourself grow tall, like the tree that we just were. Keep that as you bend your front knee and now widen your arms, but there's a sense of being a tall tree from our tailbone out the crown of our head. Instead of collapsing that right knee over towards the left, encourage your right knee and right thigh over towards the right. A little bit like the anchor that held you up in our side plank. Remember that? 2 moments here. Then we'll straighten our front leg and just lower our arms to give them a break. This next posture, in a moment you'll take your arms wide again, is not a side bend. So what I want us to feel, and you can do this with me, take your right hand into the crease of your right hip and think of a karate chop that brings this left hip up. That's the action that we want in our hips. And then we'll reach way out with our right hand. It could be that you take your right hand on your shin. I'm a fan of using right hand on the block so we don't push pressure into straightening that leg. And then left arm up to the sky, thumb to the sky. My block is on the outside of my right foot, very tall. You can even stack a couple of blocks on top of one another. And you could use a chair, the base of a chair for this pose. Let's take a couple moments. If this left arm gets tired, you can take the back of your left hand to the small of your back and let that feed an opening through your chest. We have 3 moments here. I think I just brushed my microphone as I showed you how open the chest might be, your chest might be. 2 more moments. Free your left arm up if it was behind your back. Look down at your right foot and bend your right knee like warrior 2. Take your prop off your mat and out of the way. So upright to warrior 2 we go, and then we'll straighten our front leg, turn all toes to face the long edge of our mat, and heel toe, until we are hip distance apart. And maybe we make our way back to the wall because we're about to become trees again, and that can be a really handy place to go. This time we stand on our right leg. Our left hand will go on our hip, maybe both hands on your hips unless you've got your right hand on something. Standing on that right leg, take your left leg out in front of you, and let's nerd out a little bit as we turn this left leg out and feel it happen in our hip. Kind of amazing, right? And then back to the sky. So left leg turns out, you can see evidence of it in your foot, and then left leg so that your toes are all facing the sky. This time as you dance your jig and turn that leg out, we'll put the ball of our left foot in the inseam of our right foot, or maybe our right shin, or maybe our right inner thigh. So not on top of your right knee would be what I would like you to avoid. We're not going to let this right hip hug out. We want it to hug in or fall out. We're going to hug it in. You can have your right hand on your wall, left arm out to the side, thumb to the sky. Perhaps that's both branches. You do you. Then we have 3 moments of silent tree-like meditation here. Left hand on your hip, maybe right hand stays where it is to help you. Turn your left foot forward, your left knee forward, and step down. Then we step wide. Arms out to the side is our first measure. Turn your left leg out so your left foot is facing that short edge of your mat, and then cheat your right heel back at a 45-degree angle. Arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. We bend our front knee, and then once again, I need more space, maybe you do too, to create that vertical line from our left knee to our left ankle. And then we'll reach our arms to the sky and straighten that front leg and feel the inspiration of growing so tall, like a tree all over again. But then we widen our arms and bend our front knee. The tree trunk feel from our spine out the crown of our head comes with us. 3 moments here. Remember, not collapsing that left knee towards the right. We want to feel it making its way towards the left, and that anchor of our left hip hugging in is there. Now straighten your front leg and lower your arms. Then remember, not a side bend, a hinge. So let's take our karate chop back into it. Left hand karate chops that left hip, arms wide out to the side. We reach way out and likely find a block with our left hand. Maybe it's your shin or your ankle. Be very cautious of not overloading your poor little left knee. And if it feels better, back of your right hand to the small of your back is great. Both inner upper arms feel like they're rotating away from each other, not towards each other into a crumble, but away from each other. And then we'll pause here a few moments. To come out of this, free your right arm, take a look down at your left foot, bend that left knee, move your prop out of the way, come upright into warrior 2. Briefly, straighten your front leg, turn all toes to face the long edge of your mat. We heel toe and heel toe till we're hip distance, and we'll relocate, and even relocate our 2 blocks just in case, towards that front edge of our mat and stand into our mountain. Feet are hip distance and parallel. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, slide your hands up, uplift your heart. Bend your knees, step into downward facing dog from where we are. And then from downward facing dog, come to hands and knees once again. And from hands and knees, shift to seated. Seated might once again be best if we sit upon our folded blanket. That can be really helpful here. So we'll sit, extend our legs in front of us, and find our way to something that feels a bit like that tree pose. Or, well, yeah, in a moment it's going to be like the tree pose. This is a bit like our mountain pose, right? So we just want to think of standing up tall. Then, as if dancing that jig, your right leg will fall out to the side, and then you'll place your right foot wherever it makes sense, much like when we were standing. Let's pretend we're standing, flexing that left foot towards us. Arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky, a V. And then our right ribs will rotate towards this straight left leg. You could even take your 2 blocks and walk those out in front of you. For some of us, the block underneath our right thigh or the rolled blanket underneath our right thigh might be kinder to that right knee. Now let's take a few moments to soak in this stretch. Some of the stretch is in your right hip. Some of the stretch is in your left hamstring. A lot of the stretch is in our mind, so that we don't get bombarded with all the thoughts, itches, scratches, distractions, and we stretch into something that feels like our calm landing. Again and again. A few moments here. Now we bring ourselves up, and I want us to be very conscientious about our exit. So find your right thigh, help it along, step that right leg out onto the ground, and then stretch that right leg out. Let's pretend that we're dancing our jig and doing our tree pose with our left leg. So from the left hip joint, it turns out, and then you bend that left knee and place your foot wherever it makes sense up that right leg. We curl our right toes towards us. We'll take our arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. Then left ribs rotate towards our right straight leg. This right foot is flexing as if we were standing on something. You can situate your props to help your hands, to rest your left thigh bone on, and then we get quiet and still for a few more moments here. Now we'll come up and be careful coming out, right? So find your left thigh, help it along, you stamp that foot in front of you, and then extend your left leg. Let's take a moment here in a seated mountain pose, if you will, with our hands on our outside of our thighs, our legs are straight. If you want to hinge at your hip and walk out a little, that's fine, but that's not really quite the objective. I want you to feel more interested in a long spine than in trying to get your face close to your legs. This is just a counter pose to a lot of what's called external rotation, that kind of cross-legged and tree pose shape that we did today. Then we'll walk ourselves back, if you walked forward at all. Bend your knees and put your feet on the ground. Come off of your prop, whatever that might be. And we lie down in our final Shavasana meditation. Let's set that up too. Walk your feet wide, drop your knees in on each other. Lift up and shimmy your shoulder blades so they're flat on the ground and they feel like they're coming close to each other. Palms face up, and this is a perfect place to stay. You might lift your tailbone just an inch, release that tailbone down for space, and if it feels good in your body, you could extend one leg and then the other straight. Our feet will flop open if our legs are straight, and if you're comfortable, close your eyes. It's our rest and digest. Now start to wiggle your fingers and toes, bend your knees, place your feet on the ground, and roll gently to either side. Please take your time as you come up to any comfortable seat, which could be the cross-legged seat that we started in. Maybe you sit back up on your folded blanket or your prop. And then once we're here, let's seal our practice with our hands atop our heart. a little moment of gratitude. I'm Andrea. I am so grateful that you have practiced with me. I look forward to us doing this again together soon.